Hello again, this is Rick, and this is the project build video for the nose landing gear of the UAV Reaper, not Raptor. So now that I've got the name right, forgive me for my first post. I called the aircraft the Raptor. It's the Reaper. So this is the front landing gear that the plane comes with. A piece of 5mm music wire and a strut cover made out of plastic that snaps together. It's not a very good setup. It does have a spring and some other stuff, that washers and such, that allow the body to spring a little bit, I guess. The spring that came with it is very stout. It's very stiff. So anyways, pretty inferior. So like I said in my other video, this aircraft's going to have a full onboard telemetry system, camera, radios, all sorts of good stuff. And I want a landing gear up front that will shock absorb on landing. There's a couple companies like Robart and stuff, HDI, that make Olean struts. They cost between $50 and $200, somewhere in that range. If you have access to tools and can machine things, you can make one, and that's what I'm going to show you today. I have built a front strut. It will be Olean based. I still have the hinge to attach. I'm not going to post the video on that. You'll just see it once it's mounted to the aircraft. You'll see that the Olean hinge is here. But anyway, I took a 16mm air cylinder. It was 140mm long when I started, just so I had plenty of room to play with. The cylinder was 140mm long, and the throw arm was just as long because it was a full reach air cylinder. I did quite a bit of machining to the cylinder itself. I did not turn the stainless steel part, but it had up front here, it was threaded, and this was kind of a bigger chunk, and I machined it down so it just looked better. The Olean hinge is going to attach here, the bracket for the top of it, and then I'll drill and mount and make a bracket for here, and I'll hinge those together. And the reason that these struts are hinged is so when it turns, right now if I were to hook this up and go fly, see, the air cylinder turns but the strut does not. So that's why a strut has the Olean hinge on it, is to allow it to shock and turn in movement. So anyway, I had to make a collar that fit around the cylinder, and I machined this piece, and all this aluminum is T65 aircraft aluminum. I had some laying around from previous stuff I've done, and if you have access to either a CNC or an end mill or lathe, then you can produce one of these. If not, your best bet is to cough up the money and buy one. Anyway, so I used some 4mm set screws to attach this collar. I drilled the stainless steel cylinder, and you can see the set screws go in and they actually bury themselves into this piece, and that's how that's attached. Inside here is a spring that allows that to spring. At the very bottom, it's about 16 pounds of force. There's half of that, and this will be 8 pounds divided by 3 wheels on the aircraft. So I figure for about 2 pounds on the runway or taxiway, it'll be shocking somewhere in there. But anyway, the strut, gave it a little bit of a design. That's the back, the angled portion of it. It'll sit on the aircraft like this. The forward portion of it, or the nose of the aircraft, will be to the right of what you're looking at. Overall, it's a little long, so I made it so only about that much of it will stick out of the aircraft. That's what you'll see somewhere in there, and then what you see up, what's left up here, will be inside the aircraft. I drilled a 5mm hole in the end for the music wire that will actually be connected to the servo horn, which will turn it. Now for an axle, remember I bought the 3-inch wheel, the aluminum hubbed wheel. It has a 5.5mm through hub. I send you these plastic adapter pieces that you fit inside here so you can change the different music wire. But we all know, even with graphite, those aren't going to last very long. So for the front wheel, right now I've made an axle that fits true, and the actual axle itself I made out of brass. We'll graphite all this down as I install it. And so basically it fits together like this, and the axle slides through. It's 5.5mm drilled on this side to match the hub of the wheel, and it's 5.2 drilled on this side. And then I have a nylon back nut that threads on here. And you'll still have to use wheel collars because you have the gap in there that allows the tire to move. I haven't made the wheel collars yet. I just ordered some 5/16 ones, and I'll drill them out to 5.5mm. But so on this side, basically you have like a button head on that brass axle that stops the axle coming in, but to prevent the strut from being compressed or pulled together when you tighten it up on that axle where it's 5.5mm, I threaded it at 5mm and then mic'd and twisted the threads back until the threaded side bottoms out on the inside as well, so it pulls against itself basically. But so what we have is this setup that shocks, and this is the front going this way, and you'll see if I put 16 pounds of pressure on it, it doesn't really do anything to that tire. That tire is a medium durometer. It's not real hard. It's not real soft either, but it is a softer wheel. So anyway, the next video will be attaching this to the aircraft and making it turnable. In the next video I'll have the Olean hinge will be attached to here and working, and I'll have the aircraft cut and this up in. Hopefully everything goes together with this as flawlessly as it did making this strut. So I'm real excited about this strut. I think it turned out a whole lot better than I thought it originally would. I was prepared to purchase one if this didn't work out, but I'm going to go ahead and use this, and hopefully it ends up being something as cool as I think it will be. So anyway, that's my strut, my landing gear for the UAV Reaper. And like I said in the other video, all this is going to get super modified, and the landing gear by factory default goes there where that little wooded tab is. So all that's going to change, and the next video all that will be installed. This is Rick signing off about the UAV Reaper.